Okay, so here is the Soundcraft 200B. This is a analog console from like the late 70s, early 80s. And so this thing it's a really cool little board, 16 channels. It has 4 aux sends. And so this is the talkback microphone here. It's this tiny little thing here that I'm assuming is an Omni microphone. And there's these little buttons below it. And I've seen this on other boards, especially the old Soundcraft boards, is that you can send the talkback mic to the aux or to all. Boom, and I could talk to the musicians using the talkback mic. So obviously we've all heard of that. If you're watching this, you probably are familiar with a talkback mic. So the way I have this is I have the output from the aux sends going into Pro Tools through my Apollo. I also have the 4 subgroups on the board going into Pro Tools. So that gives me 8 channels into the board. And I thought, okay, if I hit talk to all, it's going to send the talkback mic to all 8 channels into Pro Tools. And so what happened was it didn't go to all 8. It just went to the first 2 auxes and then the 4 buses. It probably goes to the master too, but I didn't mess with that. So that way I'm going to have 6 versions of the same thing from the talkback mic that I can mess around with in Pro Tools. So I'll have, 6 copies of the track, which is cool. So we're going to play around with that and see what we came up with. So we have our 6 copies of the talkback drum part that all came from the same talkback mic but out of different channels on the console into the interface into Pro Tools. So here's what it sounds like when I just hit play on everything. So obviously it's louder because they're all playing at the same time. So my idea was, cool, I can process these differently. So first thing I'm going to do is mute a couple of them and just work with 2 of these at a time. So here we go. We're going to just throw an EQ. We're going to use the Waves Renaissance EQ. I like this thing because it gets some pretty cool curves going on. So alright, so just giving a high pass filter here and then boosting this around 8K just to give it some top end. And then so what I'm going to do with this second one is I'm going to copy this EQ and use different settings. To copy that, I just clicked Option, click and drag down here. Okay, so now we're on this one, and I am going to go to the default here. And this one, I'm going to carve out, I'm going to get rid of most of the top end and use this one for more like a bass drum vibe. This is why I like this EQ, because it does this cool resonance curves. So already we have like a usable mono kind of drum sound going on. It's pretty roomy, but that's the idea. Just kind of cool for being a microphone that's just built into the board. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to gate this bass drum thing a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to throw on a gate. Okay, so that's sounding pretty cool. I mean, it's to really gate it all the way out for what we're doing here. I could go through and automate the gate to make it really just like a kick drum, but I like this more open and roomy kind of vibe, and so and we're gonna give it some more level into the next plugin. And one more thing here, just for fun, we are gonna give it some low end resonance with a little R bass. So pretty cool. That's from that one mic. So if we take off these plugins, this is on that channel. Okay, cool. So now, one of my favorite plugins is the Devil Lock. So we're going to throw on some Devil Lock. So even just putting this plugin on and just at one, it's pretty crazy already. So with a lot of these plugins, you got to start to watch the phase relationship. So for example, on this one, let's see what happens when I flip the phase with these three. And then lastly on this one, we're gonna go and time adjust it slightly just to see if that makes any kind of like difference. So I like it better with the phase flipped. You know, if you play around with the filters, it starts to sound different. But for what we're doing here, this is cool. I think it sounds cool. So in an effort to keep this video shorter, I'm going to work with one more of these tracks. There's two more, so you get the idea. You can process them differently. So with this one, I just want to see what it sounds like to throw some spring reverb on it. I'm just going to use the stock Pro Tools spring reverb. We're going to keep all these mono. Cool. So if we wanted to go stereo, right, we could just basically, we're going to copy these. We're going to check out these two. And then we could, you know, maybe time adjust one a little bit more. Let's do like, this might be a little extreme, but. So I'm just playing with the phase to see what's going to sound good. So I think what I'm going to do is actually, now that I'm using both of these, I'm going to disable it. And then lastly, just for fun, let's throw a delay on here.